Hello, everyone, and today I will be talking about severe setup across the sort of mid-Atlantic regions down to the southeast. Although I do think the southeast will be a lot more isolated in terms of severe weather, and just storms in general. However, the mid-Atlantic up to the northeast may see more of a scattered to widespread sort of severe weather event. So um, here's the risk for today, and we do have a enhanced risk for the Mid-Atlantic up to the Northeast, including Richmond, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, just outside of New York, but the western suburbs also in this enhanced risk. And we have a nice slight risk that goes down to Charlotte, um, up to Roanoke, the far eastern portions of West Virginia up through Scranton and the Albany, New York regions, and it goes further north, all the way up into northern Maine, actually. Um, so it's a fairly large risk area today, and then we of course we have this large marginal. Um, this part down here is for the kind of convectia going on this morning, and again, sort of just isolated instances of strong storms in the marginal today. Nothing crazy. Here's our surface map here, and we do see that low pressure that was impacting the Midwest and the western portions of the Ohio Valley. That low pressure is over the Great Lakes now. Will continue to move off sort of east-northeast, bringing that cold front across the Ohio Valley this morning. And then by early afternoon, convection will begin to really start to blossom over the mid-Atlantic regions up through the northeast. We do have a little section of potential heavy rain and flash flooding possible. I had mentioned this yesterday, where they were more than likely going to add a sort of a upgraded risk for flash flooding somewhere in either in central PA down through central West Virginia. They've centered this over the Pittsburgh, Wheeling, Morgantown, Fairmont, sort of Elkins region in West Virginia. Um, Sort of just where we've had some significant flooding in the last week or so, 5 days. So turn around, don't drown. Be aware of flash flood warnings. Take them serious as the ground is still very saturated. So there's that. And then once that sort of moves off, we do have this high pressure here that sort of dominates the Mid-Atlantic Ohio Valley region for the next few days, bringing some clear weather here. This is for tomorrow, and this is Saturday. The southeast will have to sort of deal with a stall boundary here, frontal boundary, sparking up some storms along the coast of North Carolina through Georgia. But either other than that, fairly clear East Coast after today. Just real quickly, go over our sort of risks. Tornado risk not really a big deal today. However, we do have an isolated sort of risk for tornado. Mainly today will be a wind risk here, and we can see where that enhanced is. We have that 30% wind risk, where we have that slight, that 15% wind risk. So mainly a wind-driven sort of event today. Small hail will be also possible. So this is we do the surface observations here, and we can see a lot of upper 70s, low 80s across the mid-Atlantic here. We can pretty much just say everyone is at least near the 80-degree mark or above. Maybe a few high 70s fairly good. Dew points are also 81 dew points. Interesting, but dew points are definitely high into the low 70s. Another 81 there, but yeah, dew points in the low 70s here. Temperatures in the high 70s into low 80s. Sort of just briefly look at this real quick. Yeah, we have our high 70s, low 80s. Could be. You have an 85 right here. Virginia. We do have some mid 80s along the coast. And yeah, some mid 80s along the coast. H4 doing good. A lot better today with our temperatures compared to yesterday. 2 points, let's see here. And we have our 70s, low 70s. We do have, let's kind of look in through central Virginia down to more central. I see some low 70s. So H4 could be underdoing the dew points by a degree or two across central Virginia and north central North Carolina. So nothing crazy, nothing too out of normal here. So the comparisons pretty well. H4 has a fairly good handle on what's going on. So we got our satellite here. I think this will be a key player in today as well. Abundant clearing for the Midwest, not Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, excuse me, up through the Northeast. Not really many clouds in the sky. This is going to allow for binaural heating to really cake kick in here and allow these storms to really sort of blossom by early afternoon due to that daytime heating. Also, will be sort of allowing that instability to build fairly well. So definitely an interesting setup just in terms of this. Usually in the past, we've had a lot of cloud coverage we've had to deal with, and destabilization being one of the major sort of flaws in these systems. But I think today that won't be the case. Lots of clearing, lots of energy out ahead of the cold front. So definitely to be on the lookout for sure across the Mid-Atlantic. Additionally, before I do forget, do want to. This is the that excessive rainfall forecast. I just want to show it and sort of touch on it again, but again, that slight risk sort of has been added across southwestern PA and then northern West Virginia. But additionally, we do have this marginal risk for a lot of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic. So flash flooding mainly it won't be much of a concern today, other than slight risk area. But just be careful for flash flood warnings. All right, we're just quickly show some severe weather products here, and we're gonna start with our surface-based cape. Um, this is about 1 p.m. Again, storms should be firing by about 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we can see some nice before these storms really. You kind of sort of see these storms starting to fire up now, but um, in the mid-Atlantic, out ahead of it, we can see around 2,000 joules per kilogram, 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram across much of central Virginia, central North Carolina. With that enhanced risk, we do have higher pockets of Cape, 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram possible, um, in that sort of enhanced region. As we do move on throughout the evening, this is by about 4 or 5 p.m. We see that most of our Cape is going to be centered across the eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia. We do have some nice Cape values actually up in the Northeast. Up through here, the DMV region, up through the New York City region, plenty of Cape involved. Anything over anything over 1,000 is going to be supportive enough. Anything over 2,000, you're going to really have juiced up atmosphere. Further south and near the isolated event, we do have a lot more Cape and where we have that sort of sea breeze bringing in major Cape of around 4,000 per kilogram. Fairly typical when we get that sea breeze coming on shore, bringing in that sort of more moist, deep, moist air. Let's look at our mixed layer Cape here. And by about 1 p.m. before these storms really get going, not too impressive across central Virginia, central NC compared to the surface space, but across the DMV up through New York City, we do have around 1,500 joules per kilogram, with a few pockets of 2,000 possible. That is definitely supportive enough for sort of organized convection to definitely take place and strengthen. It seems like sort of south of central Virginia, it seems a lot more just patchy, spotty. Of course, unless you get real to far east North Carolina, but in that sort of risk area here, where that slight risk goes down to Charlotte, and then we have sort of the central Virginia area here. Um, Sort of focusing on that right now, and yeah, just not a whole lot of mixed layer Cape. But as we move on, it does fill in a little bit by afternoon. By about 3 or 4 o'clock, we do have some pockets of 1,250 joules per kilogram mixed layer Cape. Um, that's really for the case up along the coast here. Nothing really more than 1,500 by 4 o'clock. Um, Along the coast, of course, here we'll have more substantial mixed layer Cape. Yeah, in terms of that, it's nothing off the charts or too crazy here. Let's look at our bulk shear here. I will look at actually before we do that real quick. I do touch on the upper air maps here. So let's sort of by 12 o'clock here, we could see a nice bulk of 45, 50 knot winds here. Sort of out ahead of where the convection will be taking place. As this moves on next few hours, as soon as that convection begins to really pop up, it's going to have 40 knot sort of winds at the 500 millibar level at least. Um, so yeah, I mean that is definitely supportive enough for severe weather development. Let's look at our sort of our low level jet here. As we move on here, this is afternoon. We see closer to the base of that surface low, our low level jet will be a lot stronger. Um, but by evening here, we do see an increase in our low level jet across the mid Atlantic. But most of the storms by then will be sort of offshore. There will be a few, I think, isolated events of a more semi-discrete cell across New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and it may have some better low-level jet, low-level winds to sort of work with. But I do think the tornado threat will be a little bit greater up north, isolated threat, especially if some of that instability, 1,500 joules per kilogram, can get up through New York and Massachusetts and Vermont and New Hampshire. Um, but we'll see. Yeah, low level jet doesn't seem to be a major issue when these storms kind of begin to form, and then throughout the evening. But um, any sort of discrete storm um, may be taking advantage of these higher winds by later evening. But nothing too impressive, but just enough to sort of really cause some issues. And we can see our bulk 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear, and we can see just better values across sort of New York and PA here. If we go down further to the Mid Atlantic, not great. The DMV region, it's better, 35 knot, 30 knot winds. Definitely supportive of some organized clustering and line segments. That of course begins to increase as that low level jet really begins to kick in. But again, most of the activity should be kind of done by now at this point. And we'll sort of just see what the HRR has here. I'll take a few soundings here, sort of wrap this up. We see sort of the very isolated severe activity across the Ohio Valley here. Nothing crazy. Um, a wind gust or two, maybe some small hail. The main sort of activity will be across the DMV here. If we take a sounding near that near the DMV region, yeah, we can see a nice cape layer here, and then precipitable water values should be fairly high today. Through Cape as well. Um, again, no really turning in our winds. Very veered, sort of in the same direction all the way up. Really all the way up to 15 kilometers before it really starts changing some. So again, tornado threat, nothing big today. As we'll go a few hours here, I'll take a sounding sort of in the same general area. Um, There we go. Got a contaminated one here. It's much better. Again, sort of veered southwesterly winds. Cape values again look good. 3 Cape looks good. Super water looks good. Downdraft Cape, D Cape here. Um, that's not necessarily too high. You kind of want that over 1,000 to be sort of worried. But that is a respectful number, around 850. So it does sure show that, that sort of marginal damaging wind threat, 60 mile per hour winds maybe. Take a sounding here, Southern Virginia here. Let's just sort of the same thing, less sort of Cape that they're dealing with. 3 Cape is also significantly lower. Downdraft Cape is a little higher though, around 942. Just supports that damaging wind threats, but nothing crazy. We can sort of see this is around 1 p.m. and then 4 p.m. 4 p.m. it begins to become a bit more scattered in terms of strong severe storms across the mid-Atlantic, and that sort of goes through the evening and to the night, sort of weekends, and then across the Carolinas we'll see some possible overnight thunderstorms, but nothing crazy. I'm gonna look at a few more cams here. Um, these did pretty good yesterday. Actually, these did pretty good yesterday, so I'm gonna kind of use them again here. So this is around yeah, this is around, if this can stop, this is around sort of 1 p.m. here, 12 p.m. And we can really see by about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we can see, according to this model here, which is listed above, some isolated sort of pop-up convection is going to start taking place. And by 1 or 2 o'clock, that begins to really become more scattered in terms of coverage here across the Ohio Valley and even portions of the Mid-Atlantic and up to the Northeast. Down southeast, more of just daytime heating sort of event, kind of along the sea breeze potentially. But as we move on, we can see that sort of more of organized convection across central Virginia and North Carolina. Seems to like that sort of a lot. Seems to like the central Virginia, North Carolina portions a bit more. But we can see some bow segments sort of exit off the coast by late tonight after sunset. But a very sort of stormy setup here. Nothing too crazy here. Let's look at another model that did fairly well yesterday. Um, not as not as bullish on the convection across sort of the Ohio Valley, Mid Atlantic, and Southeast, but we do see some of that isolated convection still taking place. Um, if we move on, we can start to see where this cold front is. It does a good job indicating where that cold front is. But out ahead of it, we do see some semi-discrete sort of convection. And by sundown here, we can see some some both segments, some clustering taking place, really from New York City all the way down to North South Carolina here. Again, this is just according to this model run. ARRR didn't really have much of this activity down here, especially in the southeast. So observations will be key today. Multiple rounds of storms are possible for some people. So again, just watch out for any sort of flooding. Um, and then this is another sort of graphic here. This is sort of the near surface, the surface moisture transport. Um, pretty it sort of tells you out ahead of a certain location if that surface near surface moisture is being transported. And during convective tourist systems, this is nice to look at, but we can clearly see a nice sort of moist air mass near the surface here in the Ohio Valley. And that will sort of move northeast as this cold front begins to advance northeast as well. But this just sort of tells me that there is a lot of a good substantial amount of moisture on the surface levels that will sort of promote this convection and heavy rain um, throughout the Ohio Valley here. So again, just sort of a scattered and widespread severe event possible across the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. More isolated across North Carolina South. But nothing crazy today. Just be weather aware. Damaging winds up to 70 mile per hour. Some small hail, quarter sized, being probably the largest today. Maybe a quick spin up, especially up through upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. I think even southern New York, Massachusetts. So, um, 20th threat again. Here it is. But yeah, after today, it sort of definitely quiets down for the next few days as the high pressure sort of dominates the Mid-Atlantic, high valley regions. Turns out the southeast more of just isolated convection in the afternoon, but nothing to raise an eyebrow about. So, hope everyone has a good day and you stay weather aware, and we'll talk to you guys later.